This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, leading the league in podcasting entertainment.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. This is the Fast Break. Well, this is actually the Nostradamus podcast, as last week I kind of predicted a little something. New York likes firing coaches. They do, right?
I believe I've heard that, yeah.
Outside of Derek Fisher, who somehow has kept his job.
It's a miracle.
See, I called it. I'm Sean Anderson. Alongside me is Ricky Widmer.
What's up, guys?
And Dave Oster, who's been here for a month.
That's pretty impressive.
That is impressive, at least for you, for the horror stories of Dave Oster that I've heard.
Hey, I'm here, I'm conscious, I'm talking. What more could you ask for?
Some would call Dave Cal. I'd call him Cal.
On the way.
Heart. He's getting
coming
there.
for you.
He's getting there.
Cal?
Yeah, Cal Ripken.
Okay. I know we can't. I was thinking like a
were
TV character,
no,
not Cal Ripken.
No,
the Iron Man.
No, he's not Cal from Talladega Nights. Don't steal my wife now.
That's exactly what Derek Fisher did, though. He stole Matt Barnes' wife. Mm-hmm. Just completely stole off of him, and then, D. Fish gets fired, doesn't even try to recuperate, and just goes onto a trip to Mexico with,
going on
Matt
vacation.
Barnes' wife.
Well,
going on
he's,
vacation.
He's got the time now. Now he doesn't have to worry about the Knicks. And
I can't blame him.
I mean, Phil, he brought him in for 2 seasons, thought he could run the triangle, and then D. Fish kind of, he sucked. To be blunt, he sucked
suck
dick.
is a nice phrase, yeah.
He
better this year, though, than last year.
Oh, yeah, no, I mean, he was...
I mean,
last year
Porzingis,
dropped, 65 games?
Mm-hmm. He's got
17-65, 20.7% winning percentage. This year, 23-31, on the up and up, and I believe they were in somewhat of a playoff contention, because the East is pretty close. I don't think they were in a top 8 spot.
They slid a little bit in the last month, but yeah, they were in contention.
I think that was really the main reason he got fired. I mean, they're 16.5 games, at the time of recording this, Hornets are in the 8th spot. They're 11.5 games back. New York Knicks are 16.5 games back. So 5 games away from the 8th spot, but in their past 10 games they're 1-9 and they lost 6 straight. So obviously Phil Jackson's just getting sick of D. Fish, and I think D. Fish really wasn't going to be the main coach, or he wasn't going to be a mainstay in the NBA, at least in New York. I don't know if this is what
it's not that I don't think when Phil brought in Fish, I don't think it was like you're a placeholder. I think it really was, hey man, you're the only one I have to trust to run my triangle. And then after last year, after part of the season, Phil Jackson, he has been in Chicago, LA, 2 teams that their fan bases are like, if you start to like trail off, especially LA, you start to trail off, fans get upset. New York is like a million times worse. So to me, Phil was like, hey, you know what? I don't want to piss off these fans anymore. Fire D. Fish. We'll go out and get someone in the offseason.
I didn't mean like placeholder. I just more meant, I think people just kind of assumed that D. Fish wasn't going to be a star head coach. I got the feeling immediately when they hired him, like, really, they're going to hire D. Fish right after he retired? I don't think he's going to be anything good.
He's who Phil Jackson could trust.
Yeah, no, I think it was a smart move, because it was like, all right, this guy has spent so many years in the triangle system. If anybody knows it as good as I do, he's got to. Mm-hmm. So Phil Jackson had that faith in him. And I think the problem really wasn't Derek Fisher running the triangle. It was more so with Derek Fisher handling the rest of the players out there. Mm-hmm. He never really got that separation of himself as not a player. He couldn't be a professional about it. He didn't really have a lot of the, I want to say, coaching tactics or anything outside of just knowledge of the game, but he didn't know how to implement it. He didn't know how to translate that down to his team. And I feel like Phil pulled the trigger at the right time, because this is a team that has a lot of potential going forward. And if you wait until next year and look, maybe Derek Fisher has a winning record at this point next year, you can't pull the trigger then. Even if, again, there's these coaching deficiencies, it looks really bad on you to be like, oh, well, now he's winning, you're going to fire him. I mean,
I feel that even if, let's say it was like
Phil, so you're not going to question it, but it's New York, so they're going to blow it up.
That's what I was going to say. If even, let's say, the Knicks somehow finished where they have a winning record by 1 game.
Yeah.
If Phil said, we're going to pull the trigger, I feel like New York fans would be like, you know what, this guy's garbage anyways. Let's get rid of him. I mean, when they drafted Porzingis, They booed him.
Oh,
now
absolutely.
they loved him. Now they love Porzingis.
Well, I think it kind of might be like a David Blatt situation. Like, if they fired him even with a winning record, then they'll be like, all right, well, he wasn't the guy coming in. He wasn't, he wasn't really anything special.
No, but
really,
they hired him. He was like...
He was the guy when they hired him,
The thing with David Blatt, though, was he was hired pre-LeBron James. Then LeBron James came and changed everything. It wasn't like they drafted Porzingis and Fisher was like, well, now what team? No, I feel like when Derek Fisher came in, it's like, okay, we're thinking about this kid.
Yeah, his answer was, you're going to win with Carmelo Anthony.
Yeah.
That's your job, is to find a way to get this team to win with Carmelo Anthony. And he couldn't do it. He couldn't motivate Carmelo. Carmelo's very lackluster play. And up until pretty much the start of this season, I'm taking the entire 2014-2015, he was totally just not happy. He wasn't going to try. I mean, he sit out like a shit ton of games last year, too.
Well, and there was a reason he went. I mean, he wanted to be wined and dined because honestly, I'd like to be wined and dined too by LA, Chicago, New York. But maybe a little bit of that reason was, hey, let me see what a Chicago and LA have to offer because, like you said, he sat out so many games last year. They don't have fish.
Melo sat out 42 games. He played 40 and started 40. He's already broken that as he started 48 games this season already.
Exactly.
So
he seems to have gotten some more motivation this year, but again, it's just if your job as Derek Fisher is to win with Carmelo, and for half of that first year you didn't have Carmelo, and when he was out there, he didn't give a flying fuck about you, you're not going to get far. So Derek Fisher did very little to win over that locker room. He obviously was missing a lot as a coach. A lot of his questionable timeout calls or just refusal to call timeouts on long runs. It's one of the things that was really impressive about watching Golden State was it was very controlled, very smart usage of their timeouts. I mean, if they got on a 6-point run the other way, not afraid to call that timeout. Steve Kerr, very sharp on that. And to that extent, Luke Walton took in the same fashion. Not quite as on top. Some of his timeouts and then subs in and out of timeouts, not as hot. But again, it's that whole. There's so many little games going on as a head coach in the NBA, and Derek Fisher just doesn't have it yet. I'm not saying he won't ever, but he's still 2 years in as a head coach. He needs to get his ground. He needs to find his own way, kind of thing. He's not Phil Jackson. Phil, you can't mold him to be you.
Yeah,
that's basically what this taught us.
I think the main thing was obviously D-Fish had no coaching experience at all coming into this season. I mean, coming into his job. So I think that obviously hurt him. But you do bring up Luke Walton. Luke Walton, guy who spent a lot of time in the triangle, guy who has proven that he can win. I mean, obviously he's got the best team in the NBA, playing for him. But he obviously proved that he can win and take a team and coach. Well, no, he can't win
because he has 0 wins as a coach.
Those are all Steve Kerr wins.
Not technically speaking. We saw what was happening. I know that he's not going to get the win, and obviously Barack Obama was like, Luke Walton getting a ton of wins and no credit for it, and then kind of acting like he was salty because he kind of feels like Luke Walton. But anyways, I'm not trying to get in politics. I'm just trying to quote. But Luke Walton obviously played some time with Phil Jackson. Obviously has ties with Phil Jackson. He was under Phil Jackson in L.A. Is Luke Walton the obvious choice for the New York Knicks job?
To me, no. He is not the obvious choice. And the reason being is I feel there are 2 choices for this job. Number 1, you go on the side that you just talked about. You take the guy just like Derek Fisher was. You played with Phil Jackson. You played under Phil Jackson. You know the triangle. Well, apparently Derek Fisher was supposed to know how to run Phil's system. I'm not saying that Luke Walton's going to come in and fail, but it's the same situation as that. To me, the other option is you pick the only candidate out there that fits just, to me, the overall just theme of a New Yorker. A guy that's going to push his players to the limit, make them give it all he's got. Sometimes could he play his players a little bit too much and get them fatigued? Yes. But it's either Luke Walton or Tom Thibodeau in my mind.
Interesting choice with Tom Thibodeau, because if I've ever seen a lazy-ass basketball player, his name is Carmelo Anthony. There's a second reason other than money Carmelo did not come to Chicago. It's because of the fear of Tom Thibodeau.
Maybe that's the kind of coach, though, Melo needs. One that's going to... I'm not saying
he doesn't need it, and there's definitely benefit to be had, but will he play for him? Again,
it's one
part diva.
To me,
and we saw
he can
Melo
shut it down
out,
if he wants to.
To me, then that's where if that happened, and anything can happen at this point. They're not going to make a decision until after the season. That's what Phil Jackson has said. But
yeah, it doesn't
to me,
make sense to.
I'm just leaning, like, I look at Thibodeau. Did I like Thibodeau when he was here? Yes, I did. Here being Chicago where we are. And I just be like, man, you know what? That New York, just that stereotypical just attitude of a New Yorker. That's what Tom
He's an
Thibodeau
asshole.
brings.
He fits perfectly.
And I mean, and also you get to say screw you Boston fans because he started in Boston as a Doc River assistant.
Yeah.
I mean, is that a screw you to Boston, though? I think he's just,
We got your guy.
just getting a job,
yeah, but I mean,
they found a pretty good guy in Brad
say,
Stevens to replace him.
He's a solid choice.
I don't think Boston's going to be too mad there.
No, I mean, I think you got to take into account also Luke Walton's time, while playing.
Mm-hmm.
He was basically in the corner. He might as well have been on the bench, being an assistant coach for those last couple of years.
Kobe, I'm open. Nope, Kobe, you got it. Good, swish.
Exactly. So, I mean, this is a man who has many years on the bench. Not in a great way.
Yeah.
But, he's very comfortable with the coaching.
You tried on that joke. You tried.
I tried. I got nothing back. I
Bench as a player and as a coach, and when he was actually winning games, air quotes, he wasn't winning games, air quotes.
Yeah. No, I think Thibodeau would be great. Again, though, one of the problems that he's going to run into, similar to Tyronn Lue, where Tyronn Lue wants to take that Cavaliers team and really get them running. He wants that up-tempo. He needs them to run because that's what he sees winning across the league. And that's not a team that is conditioned for it. And that's why I'm happy Phil was like, you know what? I'm going to do it next year, like off season, because you can't do a mid-year change in personalities from Derek Fisher to somebody like Tom Thibodeau and expect to see good results. All you're going to see is players just absolutely gassed out there. So I think it's a smart move by Phil Dett. I would like to agree with you. Thibodeau would be a great choice for them. But I think Luke Walton just has anybody eating out of the palm of his hand right now. It's his choice.
Either way. You can go with either one. You're not making a bad choice.
I'm going to throw this out there. Kurt Rambis is the interim head coach now.
Yeah.
Does he take over this team, bring them to the NBA Finals or NBA playoff? Not the finals. Not the finals.
He's getting ahead of
NBA
himself
playoffs. Does Kurt Rambis stay? Because he obviously he spent time in LA as an assistant since '94. He was from '94 to '99. He was an assistant. Then '99 he was the head coach, and then he came back. 2001 to 2004 was an assistant. Then 2005 to 2009 he was an assistant. So I mean, he's proven that he's been with Phil Jackson throughout like Phil's career in LA. He's been a coach before with the Timberwolves. He went back to LA in 2013, 2014 as an assistant. Does he get the chance?
I feel like,
or do they want that big ticket
he's
name?
kind of a lifer as an assistant coach. He's found his groove. He knows his level of competence, responsibility, and he's got this experience to hopefully. I mean, I think they were hoping that somebody as experienced as him could kind of work with the younger head coach Derek Fisher to kind of guide him in the right direction, help him bring this team together. Obviously, didn't help out a ton, or didn't work out with that combo this time. But that's not to say that, now all of a sudden he's going to see this as his chance to break out and go take over head coaching job somewhere else. I'm sorry, there's a lot of good head coaches that are going to be available in this offseason, and I would not put my money on Kurt Rambis getting one of those jobs.
Well, I lean towards the no as well, only because, I mean, he had the one kind of, maybe a half, because it says 99 he was the assistant and then went to the head coach.
He was a fill-in. Yeah, he was an interim.
And
I think
his only time as a real head coach with the Timberwolves, where he didn't really do much. But at the same time, you can look at that and say, Ricky, it's the Timberwolves. Let's be honest here.
So my Kurt Rambis idea didn't work. It flopped. All right, but let's look at the available head coaches or head coaches or assistant head coaches that we do think will be available. We got Thibodeau. We got Luke Walton. We got Jeff Hornacek, the two-time three-point champion.
Damn right.
D. Fish, which obviously isn't going to be brought back. I mean, when I heard this move that they were David Blatt. I forgot about one. David Blatt.
Yep.
When I first heard this move that Phil Jackson was firing Derek Fisher.
You're missing one too. Lionel Hollins. He's out there.
Yeah, there's a reason I missed him.
He got fired by the Nets. He's out there, though.
There's a reason I missed him.
Ricky, you're also available to coach in the NBA.
I am.
If you guys, I have a resume.
My number is 555-247.
Former cashier at a local grocery store. I got some DJ. I've called a couple women's basketball games. I got my experience.
I do
qualify.
think I've watched.
I think the Nets would look that up.
I've watched enough.
I have the same coaching experience as Derek Fisher did when he got the job.
There you go.
We obviously see the head coaches available. which one is most likely? Is it Luke Walton? I mean, when I first heard the news, I thought Phil Jackson was just going to step in. I thought he was going to pull Pat Riley.
Oh,
no,
man.
No.
I would love to see it.
I would
love to see it, but I don't think he's going to do it.
No, he is obviously not, and he said there's no way.
I don't think Phil gives enough of a fuck to show up to every single game. Like, I'm sorry. The man is... we always call him like the Zen Meister, all this kind of shit. Dude just gets high. Let's be honest. He's a very smart coach.
Well, when you just said like he'll come in, all I could think of is it was the one TNT segment with Shaq when he's on the couch. He's like, Phil always coming in with this stuff that smells. He said it was like feng shui stuff. It just smelled like weed.
Phil gets stoned. We know that.
Phil's not going to show up to every game. He's there for a lot of them, and that's what matters. But him on the court
He's there
is
for
a
the
different
corn
presence.
dogs.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's totally different. But no, him on the court is a different presence. Like, I remember back in the day, like on the Bulls and on the Lakers, imposing presence, always had that calm about him. He always was the smartest guy on the floor, and you knew it just by looking at him, the way he handled his team. So, I mean, would I love to see it again? Yeah, but he's too old. He's done. He wants to plan this team from a higher point.
He was very
when
similar to Pop, is what I was just going to throw.
Plus, when he
Yeah,
coached
good.
those two teams, kind of like Pop, you could say as well. When he was on the Bulls, he kind of had this player called Michael Jordan.
I mean, that helps.
And with the Lakers, he kind of had this player called the Black Mamba.
But let's put it this way. I mean,
Pop has Tim Duncan, by the way.
yeah.
And
yeah.
David Robinson.
Yeah.
I mean,
and the Admiral.
Yeah. And Tony Parker and Manny Ginobili, and you also forgot Shaq and Scottie Pippen too.
Well, okay. I'm talking about the main, the main people I
Rattle off
remember
some
from those
people.
teams.
So
the leaders.
What you're saying is Carmelo Anthony and Porzingis do not equal Michael Jordan?
Nope.
Are you sure?
Carmelo Anthony
Great players
doesn't even come near that.
You know, it helps to have a great player for a great coach, but look at the difference when you have a great player without a great coach like LeBron James.
Rewind the podcast to, I don't know, a few minutes ago when Dave talked about Melo being lazy.
Yeah.
To me, that doesn't scream a player that you want as a leader of the team. And we're
Absolutely not.
We're not getting into that discussion because I know.
Maybe we will.
Well, we've compared it to like football with Jay Cutler. That's why people don't like Jay Cutler because
I think
that's
Jay
what
Cutler
he seems.
gives off a perception, but Melo actually lives that.
Yeah, Melo actually does live it. And to me, that's the reason why the only two choices in my mind are Walton and Thibodeau. Blatt may be a third, but Blatt's more of a, okay, we're going to have a younger team, so let's try to do what the Cavs tried to do. But Thibodeau's going to come in, and the reason why I pick him over Walton is he's going to come in, light a fire under these guys in a way that the typical New York fan is going to get behind it because they are going to like how much he pushes this team. Because New York fans don't give a shit. They just want to win.
Yeah, I mean, they haven't won in a long time. And
They just want to win.
Just win, baby.
The one thing I do want to throw out here is when D-Fish was hired, same year that Steve Kerr was hired. Guy who has been in the triangle offense, a guy who is now succeeding, maybe probably two different teams there.
Steve Kerr had that background experience on the Spurs.
Well, I was going to say also, do you think that right before he was hired by the Warriors, he was in the Suns front office? Do you
And
think
that's it.
that?
Well, he was out of it. He left in.
Well, yeah, but do you
2010.
think that having that experience of a year or two in a front office situation helps a coach rather than right after playing, I'm going to go right into coaching?
Well, possibly, but you could also think Derek Fisher was with Phil Jackson for 10 plus years. Steve Kerr was with Phil Jackson for 5 years, and then he was with Pop for, I believe, 4 years. So he's obviously been around coaches. So, I mean, I think it's similar there. And he was more of he was a GM, so it wasn't really he had coaching experience. He probably learned more about like front office, like back office, front office, and all that stuff about that. But, I mean, do you think the Knicks are kicking themselves for not maybe getting Steve Kerr?
No, they're not even thinking about that because that's something that, I mean, every single team across the league every single time, you drive yourself crazy if you think about stuff like that. It's kind of like the news that came out this past week. Oh, do you think the Cavs or the Lakers are kicking themselves that they didn't make the Kobe LeBron trade back in 2007?
Which would have got vetoed to shit.
You can't think about that stuff because at the end of the day, it's a choice you made, and now you got to move on from it. Because if Steve Kerr came into New York, who says he would be doing the same thing he did in Golden State?
Well,
because
I
guess
would
who's
say
not
that.
there? Guess who's not there? Steph Curry, Klay Thompson. It's a total different
Yeah, I was gonna
team.
say you got Carmelo, you got Bargnani, you got Calderon, and
That's a big three right there.
yeah. Don't forget Amari was still there when his back wasn't given out. JR was still there when he wanted to play.
Ooh, and Shumpert then.
Yeah, Shumpert the first year.
So you're saying you don't want a big three of Carmelo Anthony, the number 1 pick in the 2007 draft, Andrea Bargnani, and Jose Calderon?
I'm just
I
saying.
mean, some thought though that
who's
team was
to
going to the
say-
playoffs and doing business.
Who's
Yeah.
to say that they would have the same success? We don't know, and you can't think about it because it didn't happen.
I was just putting it out there.
No, I know.
Don't get
That's-
pissed at me.
that's just
Don't
what
get all
I'm saying.
salty.